things don't always go as planned. It's in those moments that children's ministry leaders have an opportunity to step in, partner with a family or an individual to become the hands and feet of Jesus. Most of the time this happens in the context of one family or maybe two. Sometimes there's an opportunity to pastor kids when there's an incident in a community or a region. We're in an unprecedented moment of how do we pastor kids through this global pandemic. It is unprecedented what's taking place in the world. My friend Kelly Preston is going to join us today with his wealth of experience of children's ministry. He's going to share with us some great insights to help you pastor your kids through these moments. We're going to be looking today at kind of this global tragedy and what happens there. So Kelly, let's talk just really in general about the opportunity that kids pastors have in pastoring in this moment.
Well, obviously the opportunity is to be there in their time of need, to be there when parents and kids have their ears open and they're ready to listen and ready to be influenced, which, as you know, is not always the case. So it is an incredible opportunity for us to make a difference.
Yeah, this leading up to this, every moment that they've spent in building relationship with kids and with parents, this is the payoff time. Yeah. Because now that relationship can be leveraged for influence in such an incredible way to come in as that pastor and to make a difference. Prior to COVID-19 really hitting the U.S. like it did, there's still record levels of anxiety in children and young teenagers, particularly in girls. It seems to affect the girls more than it does boys. So right now, anxiety can be even higher in kids and in parents. So what tips do you have for parents and caregivers on how to manage anxiety in their kids?
Well, first of all, I think I should give credit to like Greta Meeker and Mindy Homerding, who has set up some videos for us. And a lot of what I'm going to share is some things I heard them say as well. So, but I know this, Greta had talked before she ever did it, how important it is for kids to have a consistent schedule and some structure in their life. That means that we, as parents, we got to bring in some everyday routines that give your kids some structure. You might not know what all those are right now, but you can stay consistent with your dinner time. You can stay consistent with like family devotion and playtime, bedtime, and things like that. Just you have to know that kids do better with schedule and structure.
That's true. I've seen a lot of people, and it wouldn't be hard to do do Google searches or Facebook searches, and maybe your church or children's leader has put out some things for structure on just kind of routines and schedules of activities and Bible time and study time, read time, whatever. And so I think those structures are really key. And even for parents, I think sometimes we have to be very cautious how much we talk about or even listen to the news and let the negative voices into the home, because that's significant. So do you have any tips on that?
Oh, absolutely. We have to understand that our kids watch us and they pick up on our feelings. They pick up on what we're feeling. And if you're a parent, you already know this. And so it's important. Like, obviously, we don't want to sit around with the news on all day, all the doom and gloom happening, because kids are listening. They're going to see that. They're going to see your body language. We got to be empathetic, right? Obviously, we got to be patient. We got to be calm. We got to be supportive and caring. And again, we got to validate their feelings. How That's they true. Feel is very, very important. How they feel is important. Again, I've talked to even my leaders forever and said, hey, you don't ever have to apologize for how you feel. Because all of us have felt ways that we knew it wasn't right, but we still felt that way. And so that's when we need someone to help us, help us with our feelings. And so I think those things are important.
Yeah. So as kids pastors are listening to this, hopefully they're getting some language that they can use for the parents in their church. But let's talk a little bit more about now, what are some key components of pastoring children during this season? Really any tragedy, any difficult time, but this one in particular, what are some key components that kids pastors need to be considering?
Wow, that's just big. It's so difficult to even know what all needs to be done. But one of the things we've got to do is we got to love kids. We've got to love them. And hopefully we've been showing them love before now, obviously, and working on relationship. But they need to not only know that we love them, but they need to see that we love them. And that can mean different things. But the big one is interaction. You know, if I had it on the screen, it would be huge. It would cover the whole thing, and it would be like glaring and flashing. We've got to have interaction, right? There's a difference between social distancing and just being completely distant from everybody, right? So
Right.
they need to see your face when possible. And we're going to talk a little bit the safety of that in just a minute, and they need to be able to interact with you if at all possible, and their other family members. So we need to love them. We need to interact with them. We need to support them. You know, we need to support them. So we're having age appropriate discussions online and about their fears and how they feel. When I say online, that's not one-on-one. None of this is.
Sure.
It's
Yep.
in groups.
That's-
It's in groups, and
That's good.
we want to make sure we invite their parents to these groups. We would never want to put ourselves in a position that could be detrimental to the child or to us or to one of our leaders, obviously. But we've got to love them. We want to show interaction. We have a lot of ideas we can share in a few minutes, but we also want to support them, and then we need to have some fun. You know, kids, they
Love it.
fun is their language, right? And that makes them
Yep.
feel loved. But the same thing, we don't want them to be isolated. Social distancing is different than isolation. So that's really hard for a kid.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I love the ideas you have of pastoring kids with support and action and all those different pieces. And I think there's a balance that children's ministry leaders have right now in doing the pastoring of the kids, which there's a component that needs to be done, and setting up the parents to do some of the parenting / pastoring of their own kids. And this is a season, as we've been talking about, you know, in another video about the family reset, that families might be more open to doing some of that spiritual mentoring on their own. And so we have to equip them, but yet we don't want to abdicate or miss the kids whose parents aren't doing that. So any thoughts on the balance of those two that you could share as insights?
That's a great question. Again, this is something that really we've been wrestling with for years.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, we've been wrestling with this for years, and you hear people say, "Hey, the home is the main place," and it is. But then you have the other sides as well. They're not doing anything, and as children's pastors, we're caught in that struggle in between. And now, again, probably for the first time, we have more buy-in than we'll ever have, and so the balance there is absolute. You know, we want to produce a great kids ministry thing. We want to interact with the kids, but boy, we have the best chance we've ever had to help a parent feel successful, to have a parent feel like, listen, I could do this, you know,
Yep.
because now I don't want to say they don't have any other choice, but they don't have a lot of other options and a lot of other noise in their way. So, you know, personally, I would say lean a little harder. If we had to give a split, I would say like 60-40 for sure. You know, let's work on the parents, because if we can get them and set them up to succeed, investing in the lives of their kids, it's going to make what we're trying to do so much easier for the long term. And so, I think I would say 60-40, which is a switch, you know, and I know that we want to produce great things, and there's a struggle there. I get it. It takes time. You know, we see our friends who are putting out these fabulous kids church ministry online, but if it's taken all of your time, I would say, friend, make an adjustment, because I'm kind of going off track, but we are kids pastors here. I want to give you an example. I've thought many times of if you were a hospital chaplain. If you were a hospital chaplain, you meet people at their point of need.
Yeah.
People that have no care any other time about what you got to say are suddenly all ears.
Yep.
And this is what we've got right now. I mean, let's be honest. This is what we've been praying for, as far not the virus. This is what we've been praying for, that parents would be engaged. The opportunity for them to hear and to be involved and set them up to succeed is huge. And so I would say, personally, Mark, I would say if we don't focus on that right now, we're going to completely miss an incredible opportunity for them to have a reset of their own and say, you know what, I can do this, and it's important.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. There are some families who, obviously are a little bit higher, need higher touch points. There are families that have foster kids right now, and because the school environment and so many things are shut down, they might need extra support. Families where there are children with special needs, or larger families might need additional support too. And so it's good to keep those things in mind as we look at resourcing the home. And we have that same tension of how do we help our local churches, because we could come out and release, video curriculum from start to finish, but that would then reduce the need for a local leader to really have relationship. And that's where the pastoring comes in, is in the context of relationship. So what ideas do you have in this new era of social distancing to help people stay connected to the heart of their pastor, the heart of the local church? What does that look like?
Well, just again, if you are looking online at some of our friends, most of these ideas came from someone else, but there's so many good ones. One of the things that I use a lot, again, it's a team thing, not a one-on-one thing, is Marco Polo in groups. If you can get all your kids' parents to sign up for Marco Polo, it's really simple. If you put their names in, it'll drop them a thing and ask them to join. But it's a visual, just like this, and you can talk to all the kids, and they can come back to you. Their parents can come back to you. The accountability part of that is it's all recorded. It's all right there on the thing together. So if you have a group of people, think of this. What if you had a family contest? What if you said, hey, this week we want everybody, if you have Legos or whatever building blocks you may have, we want you
that's
to
awesome.
build something that has to do with this week's Bible lesson, and then shoot it on Marco Polo. And so now everybody's interacting with one
So
another.
fun.
Plus, you're seeing what they're doing. I mean, there's
Yep.
other ways you can do it, but that's one example. And I
That's
know
great.
that thanks. I know some of us are, we can't leave the house at all. So this may not work for everybody, but one place I knew did a drive-through kids church. That was pretty cool. So they were inside the church, and they had all this stuff they would set out, and parents would come by and pick up their box. And then they would go home, and then they had this kids church thing. I thought, what a great idea.
That's brilliant.
What a great idea. And the thing about that is people in the neighborhoods, people that were friends of them who didn't even go to their church, were going by and picking up these kids' church boxes for their kids to go through this stuff together. What an incredible idea. Dick Gruber, we all know Dick Gruber. Most of us do. He's a legend in kids ministry. He told me that he sent out emails to all of his parents and offered FaceTime appointments with them and their kids. And he said it was amazing how many of them were taking him up on that he had a schedule that he would FaceTime with the kids and their parents at certain
awesome.
times. I love that. I mean, so again, what an opportunity to go right into their home, and they've invited you to do it, so that's great. Again, online family contests. Our friend Tina Hauser, who is going to do a special guest webinar for us this week for those in Hydrate Amplify Advanced and Iron. We will make the recording available later. But she did one where she had all of her kids dress up something they would put on their dog. It was just so funny. So now if they have dogs or cats or whatever, now you're seeing pictures of all their pets. It's kind of like show and tell. It was fantastic. And then last but not least, Mark, we have a website, and I want to make sure I say it right. It's covid19.ag.org. It has all sorts of free resources. And Dick Gruber, he's an artist. He makes scripture pictures.
That's right.
And he made 4 postcards, scripture pictures, that you could print them out, cut them, mail them to your kids. Kids love to get mail, and they seldom ever get any. So it would be kind of cool, and it's something for them to color and talk about. So there is so much that you could do, more than the parents would ever want you to do is available to be done.
That's true. Thanks for all those ideas. Those are brilliant. I love the simplicity of that. And, you mentioned the idea of setting up appointments to FaceTime the kids and their families. There's a tool that I use for scheduling. It's called Calendly.com, CALENDLY.com. And you can get a free account. You send out a link to everybody, and then they can schedule availability. So it simplifies getting people on your calendar. It would just be a great tool for kids pastors to use to help with that concept. And I did hear one church really, I think, jumped on it quickly, where because the kids were home, they said, let's do a virtual VBS. And so I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what they're doing, but all week long, they're doing a virtual VBS for their kids. And I thought, man, what a brilliant opportunity to partner with parents. You don't have to buy any supplies. Just make sure you do stuff that they would have around the house, like cotton balls and, apples and different things for your crafts. But again, just what a really cool idea to pull that off and to make some things come together that way. So Kelly, thank you so much for just the conversation today on pastoring kids through these uncertain times. Certainly when tragedy strikes a home, and very likely there are going to be kids in our churches that even during this season, they have family members or loved ones who are infected, and they're going to need an extra special touch. Maybe they're in communities where it's a higher concentration of the COVID-19 coming through, and they're going to need extra help too. But by and large, every single one of us is being impacted right now. Every single children's pastor has an opportunity to pastor kids in these uncertain times. Any final comments that you have for the kids pastors before we go?
I wasn't thinking along those lines, but I'm glad you said it, because, the last thing I want to do is just encourage you. I know that, like you said, even though maybe your church is closed, you're probably as busy or busier than you've been, because you're trying all these new things, and many of them you don't know how to do just yet. And so you're spending extra time learning. I just want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you today that the best thing that you can do is to connect. The best thing you can do is to connect. The best thing you can do is to connect. Connect with God, connect with your kids, connect with parents. All those other things are great, and we want them, so I'm not making light of them. But you may feel inadequate in a lot of those areas. But you can love and you can connect, and that's what we need the most. Mark, can I leave them with just one tip from my devotion time?
Please.
So yesterday I was out walking and praying, and I'm going to give you this really short version due to time, but I got to thinking about, when Korah and the rebellion, it was in Numbers 16, and it's the plague had started, and like 14,700 Israelites had died due to this plague. But this is what I remember is Moses looks to Aaron, he says, run to the altar and get some fire. And that's what we've got to do. He says, where he stood, the death stopped.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you, I'm participating in the 21-day fast, Mark, because as leaders, we've got to run to the altar and get some fire. And I stood out in front of my house and I said, Lord, I stand here. I stand right here with the fire from the altar, and we're not going to have that in this house, in Jesus' name.
Right.
And I just want to encourage you guys, find the altar, get some fire, and make your stand. You can do that. I
love it. Kelly, thank you so much for your time. I tell you, you are one of the most encouraging and positive, uplifting people I know. And so thank you for taking time. Thanks for leading Hydrate. It's an incredible opportunity for kids pastors to learn. A little shameless plug there, but no, seriously, it is a gift so much more than just the content that people learn. The connection with like-minded leaders is huge. And you have done an incredible job in building that and launching it. And I know those who are a part of it have been blessed. And thank you so much for your time today. God bless you.